Story 1. A Tale of Shadows and Fear. At 19, I found myself plunged into the ominous heart of a summer camp, where my role as a counselor involved entertaining and chaperoning groups of kids. 6 weeks away from home, the job had worn me down, and the atmosphere became increasingly unsettling as the days ticked by. During the second week of the third session, as the summer sun began its descent, Todd, a troubled soul from my group, sought refuge in the cabin, leaving the campfire's warmth behind. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary night would spiral into a nightmare. Exiting the cabin into the cold darkness, I encountered an unexpected presence, an 8-year-old girl named Willa, standing alone in the forbidden section for boys of 10 to 12 years old. The air thickened with an unspoken tension as I probed for answers about her group and counselors, only to be met with chilling silence. Willa's name hung in the air, a whisper of foreboding. I took her hand, leading her into the cabin's front section, caution echoing through my every step. Panic seized me when, in my pursuit of the missing girls' group, I discovered their absence. The atmosphere grew sinister as I navigated the shadows toward the girls' cabins, consulting a female counselor who denied any knowledge of a girl named Willa in their ranks. Frantically returning to the boys' cabin, my plans to take Willa to the front office unraveled when she vanished without a trace. Desperation set in as I questioned Todd, only to be met with confusion. The forest beckoned, and as I scanned the immediate vicinity, a shrill scream echoed through the woods. Fear gripped me, rendering words useless. Ignoring reason, I plunged into the ominous woods, the night swallowing my cries for Willa. Time warped in the abyss of trees until, finally, her scream tore through the silence. There she stood, a specter before a tree, eyes locked onto mine. A haunting stillness enveloped us as I beckoned her in a hushed voice. Her sudden turn shattered the silence, igniting a frantic pursuit through the nocturnal labyrinth. The darkness played tricks, but determination fueled my steps. She slowed, and as I closed in, an otherworldly light flickered through the trees. Willa darted toward it, disappearing from view. Hidden behind a tree, I surveyed the eerie scene. A dim red light danced, revealing the sinister truth. A larger figure emerged, crouched and moving towards me. The realization hit hard. It was a trap. I fled, sprinting through the night back to the campgrounds, my breath hitched in terror. In the main office, I relayed the harrowing events to the camp coordinator, Jackie. Authorities were summoned, their presence a thin shield against the unknown. The night whispered of malevolence as the season concluded, leaving unanswered questions lingering in the cold air. The darkness held its secrets, and I, grateful for my escape, dared not unearth the horrors that lurked beneath the shadows of that cursed night. Story 2. The Silent Intruder. My apartment nestled in a seemingly safe neighborhood, and I often felt a false sense of security about break-ins. One night, after returning late from a bar with friends, I was still somewhat tipsy, having let my guard down. To set the scene, my ground-level apartment had 2 doors, one at the front and one at the back. Upon entering, I was greeted by my dog, Chester, in the living room. Passing through to my room down a tiny hallway, Chester followed, acting a bit peculiar. Exhausted, I fell asleep within minutes, only to be jolted awake by Chester's growls. As I looked at him, standing on my bed, fixated on the far corner of the room, I squinted into the darkness. The source of his attention became apparent, the slightly ajar closet door. An uneasy feeling gripped me immediately, and a knot formed in my stomach. I gently tapped Chester to hush him momentarily, and he went silent. Summoning a surge of courage, I tiptoed toward the closet, flicking on a lamp. My heart pounded as I noticed the door was cracked open, just barely. Instead of opening it right away, a sense of caution urged me to grab a knife from the kitchen first. Chester trailed behind as I returned to the room, and an unexpected surge of confidence overcame me. I flung the closet door wide open, only to find it empty. Relief washed over me, and I scolded Chester for his false alarm. Returning to the kitchen to put the knife away, my confidence waned. Upon my return, Chester was growling again, fixated on under my bed. Crouching down to investigate, I made eye contact with a man hiding beneath. Panic seized me, and I grabbed Chester, bolting outside. Frantically knocking on my neighbor's door, clad in pajamas, I explained the intruder in my apartment. Without hesitation, my neighbor let me in, and I used his phone to call the police. By the time the police arrived, the intruder had vanished. Thanks to my tiny chihuahua, who couldn't harm a fly, I narrowly escaped what could have been a dire situation. Story 3. The Midnight Visitor. One weekend, I found myself house-sitting for my grandma while she enjoyed a trip to Florida with her church friends. The guest bedroom, where I decided to stay, held 2 twin beds, a familiar setting from sleepovers with my brother. Opting for the bed next to the window, I checked and secured all the doors before settling in. It was early, and as I idled away on my phone, watching videos and texting, an unsettling sound penetrated the silence. A woman's voice softly murmured, "Hello," every 10 seconds. Intrigued yet cautious, I approached the front door to investigate. The voice seemed to emanate from the porch, and moving slowly to listen better, I peered through the dining room window that offered a clear view. Attempting to discreetly peer through the blinds, my gaze met the eyes of an older woman, perhaps in her late 50s or early 60s. Her unsettling smile unnerved me, and she continued to repeat her eerie greeting. Doubtful that it was one of my grandma's friends, I pondered why someone would appear at midnight without knocking or ringing the bell. My discomfort grew, and I retreated to the guest bedroom, shutting the door to escape the unnerving encounter. Strangely, the woman's voice ceased, leaving me to question her identity and motives. As I texted my sisters and friends about the bizarre encounter, a disconcerting silence enveloped the house. However, my relief was short-lived as a sudden banging at the window shattered the calm. A surge of fear gripped me, and the familiar voice returned, once again uttering a chilling hello. Driven by a mix of fear and adrenaline, I mustered the courage to face her. Raising the blinds, I found myself inches away from the horrifying woman, separated only by a thin layer of glass. A scream escaped me as I declared, "I'm calling the cops." I closed the blinds and retreated to the safety of the living room. Fearful and unsure, I decided against calling the police, opting instead to wait it out. Seeking refuge in the upstairs guest bedroom, I huddled under the covers. Hours passed, and when I finally dared to venture downstairs, the eerie lady had vanished. The next morning, I recounted the chilling events to my grandma, who, in turn, shared her own unnerving encounter with a woman in a grocery store. This woman, about a decade younger, had been watching and smiling at her for no apparent reason. While skeptical of my grandma's stories due to her age and diminished wits, the urgency and distress in her voice sent chills down my spine. I couldn't help but wonder if the encounters were connected, leaving me with lingering questions about the mysterious woman who had invaded our lives. Story 4. The Unsettling Encounter. I'm Nicholas, a freshman at Syracuse University, navigating a not-so-safe area after a recent breakup. Eager to move on, I delved into online dating, stumbling upon Stephanie on Hinge, a fellow Syracuse student. We hit it off, sharing interests in books, movies, and humor. Excited about our connection, I suggested a movie date. Around 9 o'clock, I stood on a corner, sharing my location as Stephanie had requested. A car approached, but to my surprise, it wasn't Stephanie behind the wheel. It was an old man claiming to be her father. Skeptical and uneasy, I questioned his sudden appearance, and his response raised red flags. Ignoring his insistence that I join him for a ride to Stephanie, I walked away, vigilant about the odd encounter. He yelled after me, sounding surprised that I didn't comply. Determined not to fall into a potential trap, I kept walking, relieved when he drove away. However, my relief was short-lived. As I neared campus, I spotted the same car with its lights off, parked on the side of the road. My suspicions grew, and when Stephanie texted, Questioning my refusal to join her dad, I realized the danger. Ignoring her text, I kept an eye on the car, cautiously making my way back to campus. Feeling a sense of unease, I thought I heard footsteps behind me. The paranoia escalated when I noticed someone kicking a piece of broken glass. Ducking behind a van, I listened for the approaching footsteps, confirming my fears of being followed. A text from Stephanie's dad reinforced the danger, making explicit threats against me. Terrified, I sprinted back to my dorm, losing the pursuer easily. Alone in my room, I contemplated the chilling encounter. The man's text threatened to strangle me, and I decided to take action. Saving the conversation as evidence, I planned to report the incident to the police, hoping they could intervene and put an end to the sinister situation.